All right. So just spending a little time getting everything set up here. Apologies for the delay. We've got a question to start us off with right away. Um, I will ask the person asking this question, just if you can confirm, I know you're on Slack, if you can just give me a thumbs up in the Slack chat just to make sure, I just want to have some confirmation that the way I set up the stream is working. Just give me a thumbs up when you hear this message. So we're going to take this from the first one posted, and I'm going to write in some of the copy that they pasted in here. So this is going to be about the enumerate function. So I haven't looked at this question yet. This is the first time. Well, I don't know, I might have seen it in Learn before, but I haven't like dove into it at all yet. And sorry, I'm just trying to figure out which of the copy that you pasted bears on what question, since the order is a little different. Okay, I think that's it. Okay. How do I say? Okay. Slack is taking forever to load here. That's great. Okay, cool. So I don't have a problem number to go along with this yet, but we'll see if we can find it from the copy. So it says write a function called alt series. Let me just copy and look for alt series. Alt series. Come on. Write a function called alt series. Number 3. Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much. Um, Let me just read this copy here. Okay, so this is write a function called alt series. This function should have one parameter. Is this the same? One parameter, yes. Okay, good. Should have, excuse me, one parameter, which will be a list of numbers. The function should, dot, dot, dot. Okay, I'm just gonna, since this is the same, I'm just gonna work out of my text editor here, because that's what I prefer. I'm just gonna turn this into a more sort of conventional doc string, or at least a, one that I'm familiar with. So alt series, this function should have one parameter, so it takes in an input, which will be a list. We'll call this num list, which is a list of ints or floats, ints or floats. Called numbers. Specific variable, that's interesting. And a variable called alt sum. I'm going to say take the sum of all the numbers in numList. Okay. Oh, that's nice. That's what I called my input. Good. Let me just see if I can edit this. It's the only time it shows up. So in a variable called altSum, there we go. Take the sum of all the numbers in numList, where the values with even indices, okay, so the values with even indices are added and the values with odd indices are subtracted. Okay, So this is going to be the sum of the even numbers, and we're going to subtract all the odd indexed numbers. So we're adding every other number and subtracting every other number. That's what it sounds like to me. In a variable called powsum, another specific name variable request, we're going to sum together the result of, let me bullet these, raising each value to the power of its index. Sum together the result of raising each value to the power of its index. So v to the I. In a variable called index sum, there's a pattern here. So let me just, formatting is always nice. Okay. In a variable called idx sum, we're going to sum together the result of raising each index. Okay. Result of raising, so this is just the inverse of powsum, raising each index to the power of its value. Should return, oops, oh, return these three variables in the order altsum, powsum, idx sum. Good. That'll be altsum, powsum, idx sum. And here we have a note. Recall that in order to return multiple values, you simply separate them with commas. That's a good point. I'll leave that there. The summation index should start at 1. Okay, that's a very important piece of information that changes literally everything about how this function is going to work. So let's put that right up at the top here. So this will be some pretty important information. Okay, so this function should have a parameter which lists numbers. This function should da-da-da. Just going to do this. Boom, boom. That way it stands out a little. Okay, so now we have some examples. What I always like to do when I have obvious examples, in this case these examples are very obvious because they're under a heading called examples, which is pretty obvious. Let's call print, and we'll just pass all this to print, and we'll say, give ourselves a little room here. And let's just do, I'll just comment these out actually. And we'll just note that these are the expected return values for these two functions. Okay, cool. So I'm going to run my code. We're just going to do a little mini sanity check, and I expect an error through main pi. It should just say alt series is not defined. Good. Alt series is not defined. So let's define it. That's a good idea, right? That'll solve that error. Def alt series takes in num list. And what did I want to return? Return the three variables alt sum. Yeah, that's nice and easy. We'll just copy that. Return alt sum, pow sum, idx sum. We'll delete that period because that's not a real thing. Now, I'm going to do a little shorthand here. I could put these on their own lines and just start them at, I think I want to start them at 0. Is that right? I will be multiplying consecutively though, so I might want to start them all at 1. Let's just see. In a variable called alt sum, so this is taking the sum. I think these other two are going to need to start at 0 though. Or excuse me, at 1. So I think I'll need to start those two at 1 because we're taking a consecutive. Oh no. No, we are actually adding all those. So pow sum, sum together, these are all taking the sum. We'll do this. Sum together. I think that's, I edited that. So these are all the sums, so this can actually be, these are all 0. So I'm going to do a little shorthand here. Instead of doing these on 3 independent lines, we're going to do this, separate everything. And this is the same as what we have here. These are all taking the sum, so we can start them all at 0. And we'll do 0, comma, 0, comma, 0. So this looks a little funny, but this is a shorthand way of just declaring multiple variables. On one line here. Oh, we got a couple questions. The environment window. I'm using Atom, actually. I used VS Code for a while, and I much prefer Atom. It's what I learned on, and it's just it's a personal thing. I'm just in love with this text editor. I will recommend that y'all use VS Code, though. I don't really think there's a good. I won't make a case for why you should use Atom. I just love it. It's my personal favorite, so I use that. Okay, cool. So this is just a shorthand way of declaring these 3 variables all in one line. Saves a little space, makes your code a little tidier, I guess. Okay, cool. So let's just get this to pass. So what do we want to do? We got our accumulators, so let's start a for loop. For, and I'm going to say, well, we'll leave this blank for now. In range. We're not going to use a range. So this is where enumerate comes in. The reason I like to go through and just spend some time prepping the my doc string is just to give myself a little opportunity to understand what I'm supposed to be doing in here. So let's reflect on this real quick. We have these 3 variables. In any case, we are taking the sum. Alt sum takes the sum of every other value, and it takes the index, or excuse me, it takes the sum, it adds every other value and subtracts the values in between those. The POW-SUM also requires the value and the index to be present. The IDX sum also requires this. So I actually could use range here. If you have to write a for loop that gives you either the element from a collection or the index, it's more the you can always pull out the element if you also have the index, but you can't infer a given index if you only have the element. So we can do this num list, and we're going to rewrite this to use enumerate, but I just want to demonstrate this. So let me just illustrate. This only gives me access to the value, and I can't recreate the index. But if I do this way, for I in range length of numList, and we'll actually do length of numList plus 1, because we wanted this to start at 1 instead of 0. I can use I as the index, and I can also say num equals num list sub I. And this will be, the first time through, this will be numList sub 1. So we actually want that to be the first index. So we'll say 1 minus 1 is 0, and that'll actually start us at the beginning of the list. So this is one way to do it sort of manually. And in this approach, I can have the index and the number, right? So let's actually let's call this IDX and DX. Good. So this gives me access to the index and the number. This is one way of doing it. The better way of doing it Let me put this up at the top. The better way of doing this, if you writing a loop and you're like, oh, I need access to both the element from the collection and the index, there's a function for that. So it's going to be for, and then you're going to say idx, comma, and then whatever you want to call your element. In this case, I know they're all numbers, so I'm just going to call them num. So for idx, comma, num in enumerate. Enumerate, and then the thing you want to enumerate. So that'll be numList. So whenever you write a for loop, best thing to do, if at any point you've thought, oh, maybe I'm a little bit confused about something, it's just a good time to run your code. So we'll say idx and num. I always print out these tokens that were created in the for loop, so the variables. Uh-oh, do we have a stream problem here? Yeah, that is what you're supposed to be seeing. Oops. Huh. Oh, that's really interesting. Wait a second. Y'all aren't seeing any of my code, are you? That's totally wild. Huh. Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure why that's happening. Let's see. Oh, it's just like frozen. Wow. Okay. Apologies. Let me give me a second. Let me troubleshoot this issue. Okay. Apologize about this, folks. I think I need to restart my